Thank you, Count Corley. Well, Minister Rabbitte, it is the utmost of humbug, Scrooge, for you to come in here and to make any pretence that yesterday's budget was fair. We all know that it represented a betrayal of a whole range of promises that you collectively, but the Labour Party in particular, made to the electorate before the last election. That's your problem. But more to the point, it represented an all-out attack on older people, on families, on women and on children. Now, there's a whole range of issues that I could raise with you this morning, Minister Rabbitte. The cut to child benefit is an obvious one. The taxation of maternity benefit. The really mean cut to the back-to-school allowance for footwear and clothing for children, which I find shocking and indefensible. But I want to raise with you... I
told you to stay quiet.
I want to raise with you just one of the bad decisions that you've made, and it is the one around the respite care grant. You've cut €325 from 77,000 families, 20,000 of whom receive no other state payment. But all of these families who care for a person, many of whom have very severe disabilities, including children.
Thank you.
Now, I want to put it to you, Minister, that you need to reverse this particular decision, because you breached fairness comprehensively in your budget. But you see this cut, this isn't even about fairness. This is about decency. And making this kind of cut breaches decency.
Thank you.
Your backbenchers will make a lot of noise and indulge in amateur dramatics and theatrics on a range of issues. But I want to say to them and to you, on this one, on this cut, for respite, for families that struggle, families that give care to people the length and breadth of this state, on this one, Minister Rabbitte, you and your Cabinet colleagues must back down.
Minister, thank you. Without interruption, please.
Well, Concordia, my backbenchers cannot compete in making noise with Deputy McDonald. She makes less sense economically than the flaky stuntsmen in the technical group. And she refused to submit. And she refused.
Sorry, will you sit down, please? Will you sit down? Will you sit down? You were at this the other day. You're trying to get yourself thrown out again. I'm not going to satisfy you. Sit down. Don't be making a show of yourself.
Stuntman number one.
You're not going to get thrown out if you think you are.
I thought it was interesting last night during the budget that the only squealing that came from the technical group was when you were made to account for your leader's allowance. That was the only squealing. That's the real respite. That's the real respite that you're concerned about.
McDonald's question, please. Could we answer Deputy
The fact of the matter is...
this is impossible now, and I'm getting fed up with it. Employed Minister, would you please answer the question and let us get on with it? Now, please stay quiet.
The fact of the matter, Concordia, on the question of women and families and social welfare, this budget has protected core social welfare rates. It has maintained in existence the qualified child allowance and the family income supplement. It has maintained child benefit as a universal payment.
You stay quiet.
It has maintained child benefit as a universal payment. It has protected lower and middle income families from tax increases. And in terms of the contribution from the better off in our society, it has contributed more than £500 million. Now,
Deputy McDonald, without interruption, please.
But you know, Minister Rabbitte, I'm not particularly interested in your outpourings and your attacks on Sinn Féin. That's par for the course. I've asked you a very direct question about respite care. That's what I've asked you. So don't try and worm your way out of this. You know that this cut is wrong. You have to know. You can't stand on your feet and talk about protecting the vulnerable and then launch an attack on carers. People who care in many instances for people with profound disabilities. Do you get that, Pat Rabbitte? Do you actually
Minister, please,
get that? I heard your colleague Joan Burton saying to the parents who rely on the back-to-school allowance to shop around. How out of touch is she? She clearly doesn't know how much it costs to get a child back to school these days. Are you telling now carers to shop around?
Thank you.
Are you actually that cheap? Are you actually that glib? And this isn't a moment for comedy in this chamber. I'm putting it to you that this cut of €325 is wrong. It is indefensible. It's not just unfair, it's indecent. And if you have any decency left in you, revise this matter and tell the carers out there that you will row back on it.
Thank you.
You must do that. And if you don't do it, Minister, let me make a prediction. There will be a sufficient public outcry that if you don't make the reverse voluntarily, you will be forced to reverse on this. But do the decent thing, Pat Rabbitte.